Okay, chapter 1 of Microsoft Word. In this chapter you're going to be making flyers. So what I have here on this side is a scanned PDF copy of the book of chapter 1, and there's a copy of this in the student shared folder, and there's also a copy of this in the white 3-ring binder there by the computer. So as you can see here, first page basically just says what we're going to do. Creating, formatting, and editing a Word document with a picture. So then it shows the objectives for this section. Entering text, which most everybody knows how to do. Spell checking, formatting paragraphs, formatting text, changing colors, inserting pictures, formatting the pictures, adding border, space adjustments. So we'll go down to the next page, and once again, the introduction of this chapter, project, flyer with a picture. So you can stop and read that if you want to. You can pause this and read. I'm going to scroll down to the next page, and in the rest of the chapters for this book, at the beginning, before the steps, there's always going to be a picture of what your finished project should look like. So when you get done with the flyer, this should be what the end result is. So you can see you get your page border, your picture, all this good stuff. So I'll scroll down again to the next page. Once more, some more explanation of what you're going to learn in this chapter. You don't necessarily have to read it if you don't want to, because it's pretty self-explanatory at this point. And then we finally get to the actual instructions of doing anything. And if you choose to just look off of the instructions of the PDF file that's in the student shared folders, what you want to look for is the blue colored titles to each section. Whenever you see this blue like this, that means there's something that you're going to do there in that section. So in this one, it's basically how to find Word on the computer. So if you don't already know, what you'll do is you'll go down here to the bottom left of your screen, type in Word, and then when you do this, the shortcut menu will pop up, and you should have a selection right about in here of all the icons for all the Microsoft Office stuff. And Word will be in blue. I'll go down here to the screen, show you. It'll either look exactly like this icon or something very close to it, at least with the blue. So once you open Word, then so I'll go ahead and do this. Usually you'll have something that looks like this. You just want to click on a blank document. So you double click that, and then it'll automatically take you to something like this. So before we get started, let's look at some settings. I eventually are going to change these around during the process of making the flyer, but I at least want to get you started in the right spot. And generally, these are the kind of settings that you always want to start with whenever you're making something in Word, whether you're making a flyer or typing a research paper or something else. You want to start with your basic default settings. So up here at the top, here's where it says Times New Roman. This is where you can change the fonts. Click on the arrow and your font list comes up, and of course you've got plenty to choose from here with an example of what they look like. Then over on this side, where it says 12, that's the font size. So you can change that to make them bigger, smaller. 12 is pretty much the default accepted font by most teachers. If you're going to type something up for another teacher and they might ask you to type it up in size 11, but if there's no notes on the instructions about where to start on your font size, 12 is the accepted standard default for your font size. So usually if somebody wants a different font size, it'll be in the instructions. So here, bold, move over to that one. It italicizes your fonts. This one will underline them. This one will put a line through the middle of your text. This one will put in subscript below your text, below your text as well. This one will clear all the formatting settings, something you'll probably will never use in general use. We'll go over here, text effects. So you can see how this A looks different, has an outline, and it's clear in the middle. You can do several effects like that to your text. This one is a highlighter. It has the same effect as highlighting with using a highlighter. Your font color. This will change your cases from uppercase to lowercase. And these will change your sizes, so it's increase, and then the next one will be decrease. Another way you can change all this is by clicking here on this little corner, and you'll have all these settings here again. You can see it's already set at Times New Roman, just a regular font style, size 12. This is a preview of what it looks like, and you can click here to implement more effects. And then here is set as default. So I'll go ahead and go through the motion here. But by setting this as default, every time you open up Microsoft Word, this is where it should come up with, unless you've had it set at something else for the default. Next section over, you have bullet points, line numbering. Line numbering will indent your list. It'll decrease your indentions, increase indentions. This one, your indentions, you won't use very often. This one you'll rarely use. Sometimes when you're typing stuff up, you might make a numbered list. If you're making a list for yourself or for a class project, and this is just for bullet points. So these you'll get some use out of. And then here on these lines here, this is going to align all your text to the left. So everything, whenever you type a new line, it's going to start over on the left. This next one over centers your text. So if you have this clicked, whenever you type text, it'll center everything. And this one aligns everything to the right. And you can see the lines can be uneven. And then this next one, see, it's an exact box. It'll space all your text out on lines to make them all even. Then down here you've got shading, where you can shade the behind the text. And then this is for borders around selected text. So bottom, top. Now this is different from page bordering. So this will actually border whatever text that you have highlighted, and then this will put a border around that specific text. And then I'll show you something else that'll be pertinent without, that's kind of hard to find sometimes. Eventually you're going to have to put in a page border. So here at the very top where it says design, click on that. And then all the way down here to the right end is page borders. So you click there, and then you have your different styles that you can select. Some other effects that you can do to your page borders, some 3D or shadowing effect, box effect. You can make your page borders different colors. Change the width of your page border. You can have your page border be some of these icons if you want to. So if we pick let's pick palm trees. See how it gave an example over here of what it would look like. And also you have a drop down box here where it says, you know, you can apply it to the whole document, or you can do this by section as well, but typically just whole document's easiest for this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. So now I've got palm trees. So let's say you selected something and you did it by accident and you want to go back. Instead of trying to delete, you can go all the way up here to the top left corner, almost all the way over, and see the back button. That'll undo your steps. So the first step is going to undo the page borders. Now see, it's still highlighted, and it's gonna backtrack through everything, all the things I've already done so far in the document. So we don't want to do that right now. So I go ahead and click back on home. Here you'll find some different styles of text that you can do for a theme for your page if you want to. At some point, one of the projects will ask you to change your theming. So this is one of the spots where you can do that. Other text styles, I'm sorry, not themes, text styles. Okay, so let's go back to the project. Okay, so to run Word and create a blank document, we've already done that. So we'll scroll down. These are all the things you want to just kind of go through these and make sure you've done everything. Where it says, you know, top where it says something about the print layout button. You know, basically, if you've gotten to this point, you don't have to worry about anything. You've gotten that step done. One thing you do want to be sure to look out for is make sure you've got these lined up, matching each other. Your tab bars, tab settings, because if not, it'll mess up your line spacing and indentions if they aren't lined up. So make sure those are lined up and right there on the gray spot. And then one other thing I want to check for is page layout, your margins. So we'll go up here to layout. You go over here to margins. And you want to come down here to normal, where everything has a 1-inch margin. And if it's not already set on that, go ahead and click on that and set it there. Then come down here to custom margins, and everything should have 1 inch in these boxes. But then just go down here and set that as your default. So that way, every time you open up a new Word document from scratch, you always have it set at the 1-inch borders all the way around, and then you can change it, customize it for whatever project you're working on. But typically, in general, you'll want 1-inch margins all the way around. Okay, so we'll see that the first thing here is to type text. So step 1, type adventure. And exclamation mark after that. So you've typed that, and then underneath that you have the picture of your page, and almost every step will have this. You can see it's already got what was done in the first step, adventure, here. But notice that there's also some like hint boxes all over the page that'll kind of point some things out to you. So you take the time to look through those. A lot of times, as you're looking through stuff, some of those can be helpful hints. Something else to look for is, if you notice, obviously I've got this has highlighted. The text setting on the document in the example says Calibri size 11. That's the default settings for Microsoft Word. So, and I know I told you to have it on Times New Roman 12. Either one's fine. Most everything that you're going to type is going to be in Times New Roman 12. So that's why I just went ahead and told you to go ahead and have it set there. But if you have it on Calibri 11, just make sure when you're doing work for another teacher, a research paper, or some type of report, just make sure you have that on Times New Roman 12, unless the other teacher said something otherwise. Okay, so we're done with that. So, that was, like I said, the red dot, step 1. Okay. Now step 2, press enter to move the insertion point to the beginning of the next line. So basically, enter to move the cursor down. And as you can see, I still left the cursor here. Literally you want to follow these step by step, because sometimes, it's automatic to go ahead and move forward to the next step because you know what's going to happen. But sometimes that's an easy way to get lost too, just because eventually there's going to be a lot of things going on. So I'll go ahead and push enter to get that down to the next line. Easy peasy. So then we'll scroll down to the next section. Then you've got the blue text here to display formatting marks. Now, one thing I do want to say is there's of course there's a lot of extra writing in here, a lot of extra instructions. Keep in mind that this book was written in a way to be presented to somebody that hasn't had any experience at all with computers or Microsoft Office. So it's written for somebody that has literally not opened anything ever in Microsoft Office. So that's why there's so much extra text in the book, so much extra instructions. So I know, almost everybody has had exposure to this. Most of you have been in a digital citizenship class last year, so most of this isn't new. Okay, so brings us to the next section, to display formatting marks. The formatting marks, what they do is they just tell you where the end of your sentence is, or the end of your line, not sentence, but the end of the line that you're typing on is. So step 1, if the home tab is not the active tab, click on the home tab. So we'll go up here to the top left and click on home tab. Back to step 1. If it's not selected already, tap or click the show hide button for that. Let's get this little symbol. Now the reason why it says tap, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a time where touchscreens the manufacturers tried to make touchscreens real popular for laptops and computers. Kind of really didn't take off too well. Obviously we've got old stuff here at school, so tapping, there's no tapping because we don't have touchscreens. So now you've got this funny little symbol button. So that's back up here at the top. Hopefully I'm going slow enough, I'm not losing your eyes. Okay, and right here this is. You'll see when I click this, they'll show on the page. Like that. Now you've got these on here, so this will show you where the end of each one of your lines is at. So I'll go over here. Now I'm not going slow because I'm slow. I'm just trying to make sure I don't lose your eyes on this. Okay, so we'll scroll this down. Okay, another easy step. To insert a blank line, we all pretty much know how to do that. Step 1, just press enter. And if you watch the document on the left there underneath adventure, it's going to go down 1. And it still leaves that little symbol because that little symbol indicates that there's a line typed there. Okay. Now next up, to zoom page width. And once again, you see, the page. You've got these boxes and some information here on the instructions. If you make the Adobe full size, you can probably read those, or you might be able to see them in the copied pages in the binder. It points out some different the different sections of the formatting settings. So click or tap the view on the ribbon. So we'll go up here to the top to view, and then back over here to scroll this down to step 2. Click the page width button, and as you can see, it kind of, there's a little box here and it sits in red. It says page width button, and it shows you where it's at on the page. So I'll go up here. Here we find it in the same spot. So we'll click that. And nothing changed because I already had the page centered. Now one thing I do want to mention too is a lot of times on these boxes they'll have little arrows pointing to where things are at. They're accurate most of the time, but this book was for Office 2013. And the version you're using is 2016, so things have been moved around a tiny bit. They're still in there. If there's something that's not shown in the picture, just try clicking around on a few different things, but eventually you'll find it. If not, you always feel free to ask. Okay, so we're done with step 2, so we'll go down. Talks a little bit about word wrap and what that is. Feel free to pause and read about that if you want to. And to word wrap text as you type. Basically it's just going to keep going. So step 1, type the first sentence of the body copy. So I'll go ahead and type that in. So I've got that line typed in. So obviously I see, there's an error here. Easiest thing to do a lot of time for this, just click in it, push backspace. But let's just say, as an example, it was a word that you misspelled, and you didn't know how to spell it. So just keep, you've got the word with the red line, keep your cursor over it, and right click on the mouse once. Right click on the mouse once. There we go. So now you've got your spell checking comes up, and here's some different choices of words that you might have meant to use. We wanted to use trails. So we've got here trails, click on that, changes it to trails. And something else you want to notice too, so it puts the little dots in between the words. That's just part of the paragraph tool. It puts a little dot every time there's a space. I'll go back up here to home, and down here to over here to that, and I'll click on it, and you can watch the dots will disappear along with those symbols. Like that. So and this is something that you don't have to use. Some people find it useful, some don't. I'm used to using Word without it, so to me it's kind of annoying. But since you're still new using this in general, I know most everybody had Digital Assistant last year, so you can go ahead and use it if you want. That way, he kind of keeps a tab on where all the lines are, and it really helps when you start to insert pictures too. So, say step 2 on this. Let's go back here. Step 2, press enter, put the cursor on the next line, like that. And actually, next thing up, spelling and grammar check. So obviously, I already misspelled a word, and I showed you how to use spell check. If it's a grammar problem, there'll be a blue line. Usually, there's a blue line underneath. And you can do the same thing, right click, and there'll be a suggestion on what to do and how to change it. So now the next step here, check spelling. Step 1, it's going to have you type self-guided tours, then press the space bar. It's just going to do the same thing that I just did. So you can go ahead and type that in correctly. And then step 2 tells you how to do the spell check. Step 3 tells you, click tours on the shortcut menu to replace the misspelled word. And that's what that exercise does. So make sure you have self-guided tours in here. So I'm not going to type it in. And then we've got the next section, here in the blue, to enter more text and your steps. So I think by now you should have the general idea on what you should do as following the steps through the rest of the book, or the rest of this chapter anyway. What this is called the walkthrough. This whole project is called the walkthrough, and at the beginning of each chapter has a walkthrough that does a step by step, and then you'll start to do stuff on your own after this. Before I go, one of the other things I want to show you too is inserting a picture. So I know most of you know how to do that, but I'll go ahead and go do this anyway. So I'll go up here to insert, and there's 2 things you can choose: pictures or online pictures. The picture that was in the example is in the student shared folder, so you can use that one, or you can use an online picture. Either one's fine with me. So this was a off-road ATV tour. So when you insert the pictures online, you just type in the topic of what type of picture you were looking for. You don't have to be super specific. But since we all knew what this was about exactly, I just typed it in. So push enter, and several different pictures come up. And look at all these that will match the type of project that you were doing. So you want to pick stuff with the ATVs in it. Doesn't matter to me which picture you get. I mean, obviously this one's not going to work. This one's not going to work. Or this one. Just pick something that's relevant to the flyer. See this one, they're in a group. It's not a self tour, so I'll go up to these where it just shows one person. So this is one person on a self-guided tour. So I'll go ahead and click that one. So click that, and as a check mark came up, and I'll go down here to insert, and there's your picture. And there's a couple things extra that you can do here. You can put the cursor in one of the corners to resize it. This will resize it. If you go to a corner, it'll resize it proportionally, which is usually the best way to do it because it keeps all your graphics from looking out of whack. Or you can go from the bottom or top and make it, see how the graphics are starting to look goofy. You can resize it that way. And then the last thing you can do is you want to move it around. So you can center it by clicking the center button here. And let's say it's still not in a spot where you want it to be. You just click on this, and then click on one of these. Sorry, obviously I'm at home and dogs see something outside that they don't like. So I'll click on this, it says top and bottom. Go to top and bottom. Because each one of these, see this little half round thing, that's supposed to represent your picture. And then the lines represent text that are on the page. So this will put the text on the sides and the top and the bottom. If you have it, put it in a paragraph of text. This puts it in a lot more closely. This will have some text in the middle, if there's anything open in the middle. Text at the bottom, text at the top. This will put your picture behind the text. So if I had this one clicked, I'll move the picture up and see how the text is over the picture now. And then this one, put your picture in front of the text. So now wherever your picture's at, it covers the text. So for this particular project, you'll want it top and bottom. And then as I move the picture up, the sentence above will move below it, like that. And adventure is going to be your title, so you want your picture below adventure. You always want adventure above your picture when you get to the point to inserting the picture. So there's your picture. And click that down. The picture is too close to the line above it. So that's how you'd insert a picture. Now, on a side note, if you haven't been on one of these ATV tours, they are awesome. I did one a couple years ago in Hawaii. Same area where they filmed two or three of the Jurassic Park movies, some King Kong movies, Tropic Thunder. It was pretty cool. So that's it for this plot project. Just go through the sections, follow the dots with the step numbers in it, and you should do pretty good with this. If you have any questions, just let me know.